Today, on the 13th episode of the What's Cookin' podcast, we have a guest coming on that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. His name is Graham Woods. He was a teammate. He was a classmate. What do you say we get this thing going, Woods? Here we go. What's cooking, everybody? We are live with episode 13. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, a left-handed man, a former teammate of mine, not exactly a great three-point shooter, but when he has a foot on the line, he is dialed in. Graham Forrest Woods.
Clap for myself there.
Absolutely. How you doing, man? It's been a while without getting the squad together, so how have things been for you recently?
Oh, yeah, things have been pretty good. I guess I took one of your roommates from college. So
That's right, you did.
Took on Jacob. I just try to help him where I can.
Good. That he needs that.
He's a troubled individual.
He needs all the direction that he can get, so we're good.
Yeah, for the most part, pretty good, then.
Love it. And I might just add that as far as a person to go for like a housing search, Jacob has got to be one of the best people because my man, regardless of if he needs a place to live or if he's already good to go, he'll be searching on websites for like different living arrangements in different houses like all the time. He's always looking for designs and stuff. So I imagine that he probably took on most of the responsibility during the search, if I had to guess.
Yeah, pretty much all of it. He was just looking at multiple places before I even tried to help.
Yep.
And actually, this place that we live in now, we didn't even see it before the day the day we signed.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, we'll go figure it out. We'll go take a look and it looked good. So we signed it, but yeah, he pretty much did all that. You're spot on.
Yeah. I remember freshman year of college, he would come over to our dorm room and try to convince me and Jonah to change the arrangement of our room because he thought he could optimize it better.
Oh yeah. So it was quite a discussion in the living room. We tried a couple different things.
That's just the man he is, but we'll be getting him on in the future. But today we're going to be focusing on Graham, of course. I appreciate the hospitality. We are in the great location of Graham's apartment. So, how's the experience for you so far? Are the upstairs neighbors getting in any trouble, or everything's been good?
You can hear steps every once in a while, but for the most part, it's actually pretty quiet.
All right. Good.
We're bottom floor, so that helps. We don't have to be quiet.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, that's something we did not have in the apartment. We did have people below us, so unlucky for them. But all right, we're going to take this one chronologically, as always, starting from the top, and then we'll work up to current day. I assume that you were born in Cedar Rapids, is that right?
I was actually born in Des Moines.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that.
I lived there till I was 1. Then we lived with my grandparents in Waterloo for a couple months, one of those things, and then to Cedar Rapids I came.
All right. Good
11.
stuff, man. That's something I did not know,
yeah.
So good to know. So obviously we know that your main sport is baseball, always has been. I'm curious how you kind of got started in the game of baseball and what kind of influenced you to head that route and get involved early on.
Well, I mean, when I was younger, I was just like any other kid. Play basketball, you play football, you play baseball. I was quite good at soccer.
Oh, yes.
For the base level skills that you needed to be. But then as I got older, soccer was at the same time as baseball, so I picked that one.
Yeah.
Football, I played tackle 1 year and suffered a bunch of injuries, so I was like, yeah, that's not for me. And then it came down to basketball and baseball, my two favorites, and eventually just tried to focus on baseball. But I figured I probably went towards baseball because it took the least amount of athleticism. I did not have to run as much. I could get away with some of that stuff.
Maybe I should have followed you there because I was athletically limited in basketball, but good to hear, man. We have a lot of memories in basketball we're going to be getting into. I'm trying to think of the first time I ever met you, and the earliest I can go back is that I was on the Rush and you were on Junior Cougars and we played against each other. Do you remember any time before that we might have crossed paths? Because I played junior Cougars in third grade, and I don't remember you being on the team at that point. And then I left for Rush in fourth grade, and then I think fourth and fifth grade, we probably played against junior Cougars, and that's where I would have seen you the first time.
Yeah, the fourth grade was the first year my dad started coaching it. And then we got some legends like Andrew on the team.
Yes.
That was Rami was on the team. Interesting team.
A lot.
Quinn Spivey, his mom helped coach.
That's right.
That was an experience. Shout out to Quinn. Jacob Lynch.
Oh, baby.
I mean, just a squad if you really think about it. But maybe I would have met you before. I mean, you were friends with Josh a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
So maybe at like some birthday or something. But other than that, probably playing against you.
True, yes. So that leads us into something that I don't exactly remember, but supposedly you had one of your career highlights against me when we played against each other. Go ahead and share what you remember, and I'll see if I can validate this or reject it.
Yeah, well, it's amazing Brandon still played basketball through high school after this play. It was at Jefferson. I remember, I don't know why, but this was maybe the greatest play I ever had. And I had a bunch of game-winning shots, so like...
A bunch of them?
I was quite clutch, they would say. But this play, it was at Jefferson. It was like on that far court in the old gym.
Okay.
And it was like an intense game between Kennedy and the Rush, and really close one. And you were going to shoot a three, and I close out. I jump up, maybe the highest I've ever jumped. I don't know. I block it.
Oh.
Ball goes kind of straight up. I jump up and I get it. I take it down the other end, dribbling it. I go behind the back. You had made it down to the other end too. Now you're guarding me about the free throw line. I go behind the back. You go for like the swipe steal.
Oh no.
Miss. Go to my left hand and I shoot the mid-range jumper and it goes in.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad that I don't remember this.
And like, if you know me as a basketball player, I was offensively challenged in scoring the ball. I could pass. I was quite good at setting screens. But that play, I felt like Kobe.
I think so. I think that might be up there because like you said, maybe when I saw you closing out, I didn't expect that you'd be able to get up for that.
It was like Giannis, just my arms stretched.
But to do it on both ends, I mean, that's impressive. I don't know if I can remember many plays from me doing a defensive play, turning it into offense. Usually if I get a defensive play, I just pass it immediately. So
because I think in that same game, Rami, he had an and one on that Zach Johnson kid.
Oh,
and
big Zach, yeah.
He gets up and he's screaming, "Let's go!" And his mom like comes onto the court and she starts clapping her hands. Oh, "Let's go, Rami!" And he goes, "Mom, get off the court." Oh. Which was an all-time play as well.
Oh my goodness, dude! I do not remember some of these. I'm glad you're bringing some memories here. But it was interesting because when I played third grade junior Cougars, I feel like I played against the Rush and we lost. And I was like, all right, I'm going to join the Rush, and that'll be like a step up. And then I feel like we played you guys, and then when I was on the Rush, when we played you, I lost to you guys, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was like once we got together as a team, because I remember we played you guys like fourth grade and fifth grade, and it was always just a massacre. You guys would beat us really like bad. Okay. And then eventually we kind of like, we started adding players like AJ.
Yeah.
And BJ.
Gage, right?
Gage. And so then we started like, get more like a basketball.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah. And then we head over to middle school. And Graham heads over to Harding, I believe, and I was at Franklin. And sixth grade, they don't have sports for some reason. I'm still kind of confused about that. But seventh grade basketball. Franklin, we had some great characters. We had some great personalities. Not a lot of success going on in the Franklin basketball program. We went 2-7 both years. Those wins came against Wilson and Roosevelt, so not exactly the best resume there. But I remember 7th grade. I don't remember much about 7th grade Franklin versus Harding, but I remember 8th grade. It was at Harding, I'm pretty sure, and we lost to you guys by like 5 or 6 points. And I was like, this is improvement because I'm pretty sure we got blown out in 7th grade year. What do you remember from those games?
Well, I feel like we always had to play you guys first game of the season. Okay. I think both times it was.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm like a Luka Doncic, Jokic I play myself into shape.
Oh, okay.
So the first game was always a struggle.
Okay.
I was always out of shape. And so I feel like those games just never went well for me. But it was always fun playing people you knew.
Very true.
Like, especially at Pierce, like half the kids go to Franklin, half go to Harding.
Yeah.
So like I was good friends with Drew Christensen in 5th grade, and so like playing against him then in middle school, and he was kind of like your guys' best player.
Yeah.
So he would put up buckets, but then, I felt like, we did beat you pretty good 7th grade. I mean, you had like Logan McRavy on the A team, so.
Well, Logan McRavy, let me tell you, he can hit that baseline jumper pretty well.
Yes, that is true. No need to disrespect Logan on this podcast. Yes. That's on me, Logan.
But we did have an interesting squad. I'm pretty sure we had Ethan Traw on our A team 8th grade year.
Oh, yes.
That was interesting. Also, Max Campbell, Jared Wendt, a good combo there.
Oh, that's so true.
Oh, man. Jonah as well. But, middle school basketball, interesting times. Do you have any Harding versus Franklin, like any other games that stand out to you? Any other career highlights that you would like to share here?
I mean, middle school basketball was interesting because the season was always so short.
Yeah.
And then, you play your Wilson and your Roosevelts, and we usually beat them by 50. But
I think one of my career games was I scored 18 against Roosevelt one time. I was hitting threes pretty well that day, but it was Roosevelt, so you kind of got to factor that in.
Yeah, that's true. And then, I feel like I didn't have any too good of moments. That was the first time you really played in front of fans.
True.
That weren't your parents.
That's true, yeah.
And so I felt like that pressure always got to me because students were sitting over there and at Harding the basketball hoops, there's no background to them.
True.
So I feel like that really messed up my shot.
Yeah, it is a big difference.
I'm gonna use that as an excuse. It wasn't just my inability to shoot.
But let me tell you, when you had the foot on the line, on the 3-point line, instead of shooting an actual three, something clicked for you.
It was Steph Curry. Mid-range and out. I was always really good at mid-range.
Yeah.
And then just slightly out, could make that. But, oh, my God, the second I took a step behind the 3-point line, it was either launched at the backboard or just short, like air ball. It was bad.
Oh?
It was like Shaq shooting a free throw.
Oh, no. You gotta have your self-awareness to be able to kind of find your spots and delegate when it's not exactly your time. So I think you did a good job, and we head over to freshman year basketball, which also had a lot of characters. Coach Drew, both Coach Drews. Me, you, Jackson Foley, Zach Packingham, AJ. Is that 5 that I just said? I don't remember, but that was probably our main crew that led the way.
Right.
Not always the best. When I talk to Jackson and I talk to you, it seems like you guys don't kind of think of that season as well as I think of it, because I had such a great relationship with our head coach, and he loved me. He had a bunch of nicknames for me. He drew up plays for me, and we just had a great time. But I want to know from your perspective, what do you remember most, and what do you kind of take away as how did you rate that season among other basketball seasons?
I do think that was a fun season. I liked Coach Drew. He was interesting.
Absolutely.
I liked him as a person, as they say, not necessarily as a basketball coach, but but Heitland, he was awesome.
Yep.
I always liked Heitland, but it was a fun season. Also, very odd team makeup.
Yeah.
There's, characters, and then, how Coach Drew ran things in terms of practices where, I remember I hit a half-court shot in a game. To end the game, we lost by 11. And so the rest of the season, we did I started practice with a half-court shot. And if I made it, we didn't have to run.
I think I remember that, dude. Oh.
And I don't think I ever made it, so we always had to run.
He was designating you as our end of game half court shooter or something, just to get the practice in.
And that was the time that Heitland had long hair.
Yeah.
And I told him, or we made a deal that if I scored 15 points in a game, that he would put it in a ponytail.
Oh.
And that half court shot against Wash or something put me up 14 points.
Oh.
And that was so disappointing. I probably missed like 7 layups in that game too.
Oh no. But Heitland ended up cutting the hair, I think, probably sophomore year.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it was like a team rule or like McCowan kind of like enforced that type of thing. But, dude, I like the long hair Heitland better. He just never brought it back since, I don't think.
I don't think so. He had the flow.
Dude, it was nice, man. I personally, I wouldn't choose it. But for him, I think he wore it well, so... From freshman year, I just throw out a few things, a little shout outs here. First game I had against Xavier, I think I hit 2 buzzer beaters. One of them was at the end of the first half. One of them was at the end of the third quarter. That was fun. Usually my coaches don't really give me nicknames. They just call me like Cook or something. Coach Brandon Drew called me Buccaneer one time because I had to miss a game because I went to my cousin's wedding that was in Tampa, Florida. Somehow he jumped from Tampa to Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just called me Buccaneer or something. So we actually had an out-of-bounds play called Buccaneer, so love that. But then he also called me Savvy because I wasn't really the best athlete. I wasn't really going to overwhelm anybody with my strength, but I had like the tactical basketball knowledge to kind of get in the right spot in the right time. So he just called me Savvy, and I'd take it, man. I'll take that as a compliment. So,
oh yeah, that Buccaneer play that was an interesting one as well.
I loved it, dude. Out of bounds, you could come off the double screen, ready to shoot, dude.
That was a good play.
I love that. We head over to sophomore basketball. We have the 2 freshman teams coming together at this point. We have a lot of characters joined together. Coach Heitland follows us up from freshman to sophomore year. We love that. And then we also have Coach Lon leading the way. Interesting lineup there. I'm pretty sure did you start that year or did you come in rotation quite a bit? I remember you playing a lot sophomore year.
I pretty much started almost every game. There was a couple games where I was like probably in the doghouse or something that I was like come off the bench, but for the most part started. Makes
sense, yeah. You remember the Spirit Lake trip early on?
Yeah, that was a fun one because that was like the first time we traveled as a team somewhere on a bus. You stay overnight as a team. We stayed in that house.
Yeah, we did. And
was that like 15 guys staying in that one house?
Yeah. And I was talking to Grant a couple weeks ago about this. I don't know if you remember it, but we were all getting ready to head to bed one night, and we're like, yeah, it's getting late. We should probably get to sleep. And T-Ron's like, no, I don't sleep.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And we're like, T-Ron, what do you mean, dude? We have a game tomorrow. You gotta get to rest. You gotta rest. He's like, no, I just don't sleep. So he's up all night playing games on his phone and stuff. And
because as we start like early in the morning, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, guys weren't really up yet. But I was awake or something. And there was like the living room area, but then there was kind of like an overlook.
Yeah.
And he was sleeping up there. And he was like looking over the overlook down at the bottom area. And we made like awkward eye contact. I don't know if he was like staring down there for a long time, but it was like we made this awkward eye contact. And he kind of like waves, gives me a head nod. I was like, what is going on?
Oh, man. That was an interesting day. And I remember waking up that day and watching College Game Day because Iowa was in the Big Ten championship game that night.
That's right.
And watching the game on the bus ride home. Lon had the iPad out watching and giving all these sorts of commentary and stuff that he would throw in. But
classic.
Crazy trip, man. Crazy season. Any other things that stand out for you for sophomore year basketball before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same experience, you know, a lot of fun. Lon, I always like Lon a lot. He was just awesome. And then just, I guess getting to travel more because that's when you start going to like Dubuque and you start playing like more teams than just in the area.
Because you're following the varsity schedule, right?
Yeah, you pretty much just play right before them.
Yep. So that was a good experience. Absolutely. We head over to junior year. I believe you did not. Were you ever like in the open gyms or like the early practices of junior year basketball, or you just cut it off completely after sophomore year?
I think I did play open gym for a while.
Okay.
And like I hadn't been doing much for basketball. I'd been doing so much baseball leading up to that where like I was kind of just like out of touch with basketball for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so in those open gyms, like it was just kind of always went rough for me, which I was just at one point I was like, I don't know if this is it. I knew I wanted to focus on baseball, but
Yeah.
the open gyms, those got tough.
And absolutely. Early mornings, and they'd have you running full on. McCowan wanted to see the fast breaks. He wanted to see the defense and everything. So you had to be in shape, and I assume playing into shape, that didn't exactly help really. But yeah, so at that point you head over to baseball, and like I was saying, I've only been to 2 Kennedy baseball games. One of them was to pick up the classic Nick Sadoff t-shirt. Of course, I had to support the legend. The other one was senior night, where I got to see Nolan throwing some absolute heaters off the mound. But for someone like me that only went to 2 Kennedy baseball games, I want to hear your perspective on kind of some career highlights, how the team performed, what the environment was like, the camaraderie with the guys. What do you remember most about that time at Kennedy baseball?
Well, growing up, Kennedy was always just really good at baseball. It was just like a common thing. And then, so I just, was expecting that to be the case. And sophomore year, I got the chance to pitch on varsity, and that team was really good. Like guys like Drolly.
Oh, yeah.
Jacob Henry, just a collection of really good guys. Libra. And so then we almost went to state that year, lost in the sub-state final, and I was just like, that's terrible. Like, I wanted to go to state so bad.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, we still have a good group of guys coming back junior year. But then a couple of guys got hurt throughout the year. Guys underperformed. Different things happened. We were pretty bad that year. And then senior year, we were even worse. We were terrible.
Oh.
So, for what I always thought was, Kennedy's really good. We always struggled junior, senior year. We were really bad. But, sophomore year, I got to pitch really well. And then junior year was kind of a washy year. But senior year, hit really well. And had a really good year at the plate. But, yeah, the team ended up not being very good. But those 2 nights that you came to might have been my worst 2 games ever. Nick Sadoff night, he goes through that heart surgery. Big night, we're celebrating him, which is cool. I like Nick a lot. But we would always go back and forth as well. And I started that game, and I threw 11 balls straight, walked the first 3. Then I think I walked the 4th one. They score a run, nobody out, and Gage has to come in for me.
Oh.
And as he's coming to get me in, as I'm going off, I tell him, sorry, Gage, I don't know what that was. So I pretty much ruined Nick Sadoff's night.
No.
Because we got absolutely destroyed, and it started with me. And a week later, Nick, he's talking crap to me or whatever.
Love it.
And I tell him, Nick, I don't like you. That's why I absolutely blew that game.
Trying to stain his legacy, tarnish the night for him.
And then senior night, I worked back to being able to pitch well again or something. And so they put me in to close on senior night. All the seniors started the second game. We were winning. Things were looking good. They put me in to close to finish out the game, finish out the win, and I blow that one as well.
No.
And 2 of the worst memories. It was terrible. So I'm glad you got to see both.
All right. Well, luckily for you, that was the only 2 games that I came to. If I came to more, maybe your career would be less notable, and you might not have made it to the next level. But
yeah, I don't want to fog the listeners' view of what I was as a baseball player.
Yeah, exactly.
I did almost break the school record. I got to bring that up. Yep.
Let's get into that. I remember you talking. I don't know if Nolan was somehow involved in the game that you it was a record for doubles or something, right?
Yeah, it was 18 doubles. I was at 18. I needed 19 to tie, 20 to beat it. I think I would have beat it easily, but we always got run ruled. So games ended quick. But I hit this. Nolan's just terrible base runner, but
I don't know about that.
He would bat in front of me a lot of the times, and just always in my way. Just he couldn't get around the bases fast enough.
Oh man!
But it was actually just ended in a tough way.
Tough, man. But I don't know if they have it. Do they show the trophy cases? Do they show the school record top 3 or only the 1? Because if they show top 3, you're probably good to go.
I think they only put it in the book if you come to games. So nobody really knows about that record. I will be the only one.
All right. Well, now the podcast knows.
Yep.
And they will be able to recommend that we publicize that more because we have a legend in our presence right here.
Second place.
There you go.
Everyone loves the second place.
That's right. And no one's going to break it. He's going to be second forever. So,
congrats to me.
All right. So, Kennedy wraps up, and I assume your senior year, you're probably going through the college selection process and everything. Were you weighing options between a couple different schools, or did you ever think about not playing college baseball and like doing a different college, or kind of take me through what you were considering at that time?
Well, early in high school, I guess I was kind of like everyone else. I wanted to go D1, or I was just going to go to Iowa, just go to school. Because I didn't really want to go to a small school and kind of go through that. Mm-hmm. And then as I got through playing, I had a really good sophomore year on the mound, and that's when I was like, okay, I can really go somewhere. I talked to a couple different schools, and then junior year didn't really work out for me, but I still was talking to a bunch of different schools, and they, still showing interest. And I didn't really handle the recruiting process as well as I probably could have or should have, in talking to enough schools and getting an idea of really what I want to do or where do I want to go, talking to a bunch of different coaches so you can kind of gauge which coach you're most comfortable with.
True.
And I was pitching poorly, and I just put so much pressure on myself in different areas that I ended up just committing to Mount Mercy probably sooner than I had to or could have, just to kind of try to relieve some of that pressure, have something figured out.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I handled it that well, but that's I did talk to a few different schools for sure.
Cool. So you go off to Mount Mercy. I'm assuming you probably didn't get a ton of playing time freshman year coming in, but how did that kind of open your eyes to the next level of baseball? Was it the size of the step up from high school? Is that what you expected, or kind of take me through what were your first impressions of that?
Yeah, freshman year, you're right. You don't really get that many opportunities. But I would travel with the team all the time, which was always tough because every weekend I'd be going somewhere, but I kind of knew I wasn't going to play. So, but it was kind of cool. That was the first time I got to fly on a plane, and we went down to Arizona.
Very nice.
For a week. But you just don't get to play much. You're just kind of learning, and there's kind of a step up that you're right. You just don't expect.
Okay. Yeah.
And I do think people don't realize how good those smaller schools are at baseball or at just different sports compared. Everyone just thinks D1's really good. Well, there's good baseball to be played. Mount Mercy's an NAIA school, so it's not even a part of the NCAA.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of good baseball at different levels. So I do think that's a little bit people don't have that opinion just because it's not Division I or not.
Yeah.
That. But so it does get tougher because you're playing against seniors that are 22, 23 that have lifted for 4. You're just you're just out of high school.
That's right.
They got full grown beards, and you're just, you're just still trying to figure stuff out. So there's definitely a big difference.
Absolutely. I can understand because kind of with Iowa football, it's rare for us to play a freshman right away because they got to get in the weight room, they got to get in the system and everything. So that's kind of how I think about it. But aside from baseball, Mount Mercy, how were the classes what? I don't even know exactly what your major was or what you kind of focused on in the classroom. What kind of focus were you taking in the academic side of things?
Well, I started out as I want to do sports management, do something in sports.
Yeah.
Which I feel is a lot of guys that play sports in high school that, I want to work in sports.
Very true.
So I started out with that, and then I talked to a counselor, and they're like, you should just do business management. You can still do stuff with sports, but you now have a wider range of jobs that you could do.
True.
And then throughout school, they're like, you can add a marketing major pretty easy. So I added a marketing major. But school, it was more so that high school feel, because it's Mount Mercy just smaller than Iowa, where when you think of college, you think of a big lecture room.
Yeah, true.
Just a bunch of students. You just sit there. Teacher doesn't actually know if you're there, know your name.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Every class at Mount Mercy, it's high school, 20 kids in classroom. teacher knows you.
Okay.
And so I kind of like that. Whereas like you could work with teachers a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Email them, talk to them after, because they just knew who you were. So that the small school feel of that was always kind of nice. But it was like school in general, it just felt like kind of like high school. And that's where I was kind of like, oh, I kind of wanted to feel that college experience, that bigger, going to football. Mount Mercy doesn't have a football team.
Okay, yeah.
Going to football games, the tailgating, that stuff, and just being part of something that's so much bigger. Whereas Mount Mercy just was like a next step of high school.
I could understand that, yeah. But thankfully, we did get you down for quite a few Iowa games. We got you tailgating and everything. So you're honorary Hawkeye for all things considered, I would say. So that pretty much wraps up what I had for college. Actually, I was gonna say, well, I guess for college baseball, right? When did exactly you kind of end up stopping playing college baseball? Was that like end of sophomore year? That's kind of when I kind of think of like when things started slowing down.
Yeah, well, the whole baseball thing was very weird in college because we talked about freshman year and then sophomore year was COVID year.
Oh yeah.
So we had played 12 games and I'd been pinch hitting and just kind of trying to work my way into the lineup. And then after 12 games, they say season's canceled. COVID, we have no clue like what's going on. And so practices ended. We pretty much just stopped playing. Everyone had to go, like classes were online. Like everyone was just in their houses. So it's like, well, that's disappointing because sophomore year was kind of that next step.
Exactly.
Now I'm kind of getting in there.
Yeah.
And so then we go to junior year, and I tried to get, I was getting back into things, practicing, stuff like that, but it ended up just kind of had some like personal stuff, so I stopped playing my junior year. I didn't play at all.
Okay.
I had practiced through the fall and winter, but I didn't play in the season. And so then I tried to come back in the fall. I was like, okay, I'm going to come back for the senior year. I'm going to really come back at it and try and play. And practice through the fall, and that's when I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I mean, we're now 2 classes moved past my sophomore year, junior year, or whatever.
Yeah.
So they had already seen a bunch of different guys, and I was a little bit out of it. So that's when I was officially kind of called it. But junior year, senior year kind of was like the end.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I can definitely see how the pandemic and everything just kind of like threw everything out the window of what you were expecting and stuff. So
yeah, because I mean, you talk about like seniors that you thought were going to graduate, you step into their spot or something like that. They all came back for an extra COVID year.
Oh yeah,
as they should. And we had a really talented, a lot of good senior guys at that time, and so they all come back and still hold their spot as they should, because But that's just one of those things where you don't even think about.
True. Yeah, that's a lot to consider. A lot of changes in a short amount of time. So tough, man. But this is a different point in time when we started a new little movement towards the apartment squad getting together and playing some poker. So some good came out of the situation. The first time I remember you ever coming to our apartment in Iowa City was sophomore year. I don't remember if this was probably before the pandemic actually, but it was me, you, and Nolan watching the Jake Paul versus KSI fight. And I think that was the night where the people above us were jumping up and down or something and getting super loud. So I don't remember if you recall this, but there was one point where I took our vacuum and plugged it in and put it up on the ceiling to drive around with it and kind of
It started with a broom. You went with the broom first.
Okay,
yeah. And so then you go for the vacuum, and I was like, why is he getting the vacuum out? What is going on?
So I was very frustrated a lot of my sophomore year because the people above us were very large and very, a lot of commotion going on. And they had rock band above us, so they would be banging on the drums a ton of times. They'd be jumping up and down, and it's all hardwood floors too, so you can hear everything. And I was trying to get their attention and try to let them know that guys, this is way too loud, hit it with the broom or something, let them know. They weren't listening, so I had to break out the vacuum. I vacuumed the ceiling, I think that got their attention. I think they might have given me a few stomps back or something, but
I can't even imagine what that would sound like from the apartment above, a vacuum on the ceiling.
I had to get creative, dude. I was running out of patience, but I don't know, man. That was a tough time in life. But the first time I remember us playing poker was probably end of 2020 at our most recent apartment that you would always come down and play. So we had the routine going after a while, because at first you guys would just like come play poker and kind of watch maybe some college football and then head back the next day. But that became like such a regular thing that we'd be looking forward to, and we'd be talking trash about poker, we'd be talking NFL and everything. And just like, what do you remember from the early days of like getting that little routine started, coming down and hanging with us?
Yeah, well, at first it started like just coming down to play poker specifically, and then just like you said, watching football or whatever was on. And so then we would have focus games of like, we would actually get through poker games.
Yes, the early days.
Then you start adding in, drinks and wanting to go out to the bars and stuff. And, some guys lost focus, when drinks started being kicked into poker. So then we reached a point where we didn't even get through games sometimes.
It became a struggle, yes. There were many games where we paused in the middle. We had to take a picture of the chips for each player, and then attention span kind of went out the window, and we tried to resume the next day sometimes. But
that was always a lot of fun. I feel like the same few people often had success at it. So at that point, you're really just taking money from your friends, which doesn't always look the best, like morally, but I mean, it was always a lot of fun, and Nolan was always willing to give me his money anyways, the fool. But yeah, those were his good times playing poker and just kind of hanging out, watching different sports. I don't think you were there for you came down for one night of the NCAA tournament last year.
The basketball?
Yeah, you weren't there the whole time.
Really?
Were you?
I might have left for one weekend when you guys had the get together with the people across the hall at our apartment, but
that was a different weekend. This was the NCAA tournament last spring. I had come down and we had stayed like 4 nights through the whole tournament that first weekend.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I was there for most of that. Okay. Might have missed like a day or two off of that, but
I mean, always coming down to your guys' apartment. There was times where like you and Jonah didn't know I was coming down.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I just walked through the door like it was like I belonged there. And
Jacob was mostly our kind of arrangement type of like get a plan going type of guy, and we weren't always included in that. So we would just see Graham and Nolan, Andy walk through the door and be like, "All right, it's go time."
And as much fun as that was, like we get to the end of the night and you can always go to your bed.
Yep.
Jacob can go to his room. Jonah goes to his room. And then it was always a question mark as to where me, Andy, and Nolan were sleeping.
And a lot of arguments, a lot of variation.
Nolan and Andy, they both could fit on the couch. I was a little too long for the couch, so not exactly comfortable. I've slept everywhere in your guys' apartment there. Tried sleeping in chairs and sit up. You're sitting up the whole night. Your neck hurts.
Yep.
I found myself on the floor quite a few times.
That's for sure.
Alcohol was not involved there.
The one I remember is you had the 2 chairs facing in towards each other, and then you had the couch cushion wedged in the middle.
It was quite the setup I had going, and it was actually quite the core workout, because as the night went on, the chairs like slowly spread. So I get to like 6 in the morning, and I'm doing a full-on plank on this. That's the closest I ever was to a 6-pack.
But I try to help you guys out when I could. I gave you some blankets every now and then. I try to supply you with some pillows to help the strange situation. But
it must be said to the point one night that I ended up on the putting green. That was a rough night for myself, but that was quite a experience where I wake up in the morning, I'm on this putting green. And there's a Cheeto by my head.
That's true.
Jonah had put a Cheeto on my forehead or something.
So before anyone freaks out, he was not outdoors on a golf course at a putting green. We had a little indoor putting mat that we would use over by the window, over by the door to our deck. So it was a nice little area back there that you could kind of escape from the the main commotion, but I remember them placing the Cheeto on you. Just such a random time, man. But yeah, we had a lot of characters. Andy is always either 100 or 0, it seems like. You know, there would be nights when he's bouncing off the walls and trying to fight everybody and stir up a commotion. And there's nights where he's not saying a word, trying to finish a homework assignment, locked away in Jacob's room, trying to get to something done. But he's always the independent variable. You never know what's going to happen.
Andrew's like the one-line god. He's really funny, but it's always just one line.
That's true.
It's with that one line. But that night he was doing his homework, locks himself away, and I went to grab something from Jacob's room, and he did not look up from his homework even a second. To say anything. He was so locked in.
Yeah. He's an interesting man, and a man that we hope that we can have on the podcast at some point. Also, we have Nolan, who's another character. My man has the outfits that would just represent a 46-year-old dad. So
that's about what you can say about that. He is a dad. I mean, he likes to grill. He likes to smoke meat. He's got his Air Monarchs, Nikes. You know, the white ones that Dad wears.
The New Balances as well.
New Balances. So he was tucking in his shirt with his belt. He even had a phone thing where you put your phone in the
little clip on.
Yeah, he's just a family away from, just a wife and kids away from, I mean, actually being a dad. It's incredible at the age of 22.
The night he came to the bars wearing America pants, one leg was stars and one leg was stripes, and he had like the camo visor on. And just like, man did not care what other people thinks about him, and that's something I aspire to be, because more power to you, Nolan. I completely appreciate that.
But yes, another true character, and then you put him and Annie together.
Oh, when you join forces,
it's like if you take Kobe by himself, really good. If you take Shaq by himself, really good. You put them together, oh my god,
you're in for a long night.
That's Andy and Nolan. Those two bounce off each other like it's incredible.
And the one thing that I share with them a lot is Taylor Swift songs, because there was a night where we put on the sound bar like a random playlist I threw together of Taylor Swift songs. We would try to guess it, see who could guess it the earliest. And Nolan would always guess like a routine set of songs. He'd be like, Mr. Perfectly Fine is the one that he would always guess. And it's like, Nolan, that one is like so rare. Like, I don't know why you're guessing that. He's like, yep, it's Mr. Perfectly Fine. It's like, no, that's not the song.
Because you guys are so into Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Some true Swifties, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
I heard about 40 of her songs that night, but only 10 seconds of each song.
Yes,
you guys had them.
We would go to the next, but oh man, so many good times. Last thing I'll say for apartment-wise, you really seem to enjoy the physical combat that we had going in our apartment. There was never a night where Graham did not stir up some sort of wrestling match, some sort of instigation. A lot of times it was probably Jacob that you started out with, and then it would kind of transfer over to Nolan. Maybe Jonah would get involved. Take me through, like, you come into our apartment, you set your bag down, you kind of set up things. When do you kind of realize that it's go time? I'm about to tackle somebody and get this thing started. How do you decide that?
You hear a comment, someone makes a comment, like, it could be the slightest thing. Okay, buddy. I'm going to take you down here. So then Nolan, he'll never fight back, so I always try and mess with him. I'll be grabbing at his head, neck like a wrestler, maybe faking a leg grab. And he just, stop it. Just say, stop it.
That's enough.
We're not doing this here. And then, Jacob, he's a real easy one. I throw him around like a twig. So, like, I mean, it's pretty easy to put him in a little headlock or something. Me and Jonah, I moved on to Jonah then. He was quite easy as well, but I never tried against him. And then
he seems like the one person that would be genuinely frustrated when you kind of like get into it with him. He'd be like, Graham, like, stop, man, come on. Like, you'd be going into his room and stuff.
And like people, if you guys realize, I always went for the weaker opponents. So I never went after you until that one time we went after it, and that was like, I mean, I actually started sweating that time. And it was just back and forth, and I don't think it kind of ended in a draw.
I think so. And I'm kind of disappointed because I never really got into it. I was more of the cameraman that would kind of capture the chaos that was going on. But there was one night, I don't remember what comment led to it, but you started coming after me, and I was ready to go, man. I was ready to throw hands. I think you had me early on my back early on. I kind of flipped it around towards the end. But the one thing I remember from that is I had like a floor burn on my knee that was like a super big. And it was like, this thing, like, there's a reason I don't get into it because, man, that thing tore up my knee pretty good, and that was during basketball season. And thankfully, I survived and I made it out. But I had you on the ground there, and Andy took a video of it, and he didn't save it.
Yeah, it sounds like Andy. I mean, I've never been in a fight, and I don't consider myself a super like physical individual, but all of a sudden, I start, especially, you go out to the bars, I kind of do the same thing. If someone bumps into me, okay, buddy, like.
You Patrick McCaffrey one time, didn't you? Like kind of like eye him a little bit.
Yes, he was lucky. He's lucky.
He was lucky, man. If he caught you on a different night, things might have ended differently.
Yeah. He would have went down easy too. He would have been like Jacob, a little toothpick.
Oh, baby. Jacob, if you're listening, or anybody from the apartment squad, if you'd like to rebuttal any of the arguments or the statements that Graham's put forward, please come to me. You can come on the podcast. You can give your side of the story.
You're going to hear a completely different side of the story from every one of them.
But, man, what a time. I hope that we can continue that at some level. Obviously, we've kind of all separated and went our own ways. We have one man that's a whole time zone away from us now.
Yeah.
But we always love when the boys get together. Now, I want to hear about this baseball lineup here. So if you guys remember the Q&A episode, Graham was the one that asked me about a baseball lineup consisting of non-baseball players. You can only have one from each sport. I threw together what I consider to be a pretty solid lineup, but we're going to go to the baseball master himself here. We're going to see what he has at each position here. So let's hear it.
Yeah, well, to start out, I was really impressed with the team Brandon put together.
Thank you.
He added a lot of guys that I had not even thought about. I was thinking a lot of just your star athletes of each sport. So to have like a wrestler in there, tennis player in left field, I really like that one. And
yes.
Then javelin thrower at third. Throw from third to first is a long one. I also realized for how good of friends I became with Brandon over the last couple of years, he does not understand baseball like talk.
That is correct.
And it was a very standard at first base. And I've realized I need to teach him some like baseball lingo.
That's right. And I've been playing a little bit of slow pitch softball, if that counts, but never played organized baseball at any level. I went from t-ball to non-baseball. So let's hear it.
But we'll go through my team here. On the mound, I had Michael Phelps. He's tall, really long, and he's probably got really strong shoulders from swimming all the time. His delivery would be really over the top, so I teach him a curveball.
Okay.
12-6, so it's coming just straight over the top. It'll match his fastball. It'll be really nice, good tunneling. But I'll have to work with him a lot.
I understood about half of the words there, but I love it.
I don't think anyone will understand. But Tuukka Rask behind the plate. He Bruins goalie for a long time, NHL, and I figure that translates well. He already is in a crouch a lot. His job is to catch the puck, so he's going to be my catcher. I had to put Giannis in. If you guys know, I'm a big Giannis fan. Him at first base, he's 6'11", 7 foot.
Probably about there, yeah.
So huge target to throw to. And if you know Giannis, guy wasn't very talented, worked really hard. So I'll spend some time with him. I imagine he'll be in the cages plenty.
All right.
And he's a pretty strong dude. He'll hit the ball for power. At second base, I added him because you put the wrestler in there, and I was like, ooh, wrestlers would be good in this. Growing up, I played with Cam Shaver in baseball a couple of years.
Okay, yeah.
And he, a freak dude. And he was always really good at second base because he just moves so well. At second base, you need a lot of range because the first baseman kind of hangs around the bag. And I mean, he's like a little animal. So like, I figure wrestlers are kind of all like that. They move really well left and right. So I put Thomas Gilman.
Okay.
I was thinking Spencer Lee, but I need ACLs intact. So,
yeah, true.
So I put Gilman in there.
And let me just throw in quick about Cam Shaver being like an animal. I played it with him in Metro Youth Football, and we'd always have our start of practice routine where we do stretches and we do all this sort of stuff, but we'd always end it with bear crawls. You have to bear crawl a certain distance. My man Cam Shaver could bear crawl like none other. He would be the first one every time. That was so impressive.
I just remember he'd show up to baseball tournaments. He'd say, "I didn't take my meds today," and he'd start freaking out, so excited or something. And like his at bats then were always so entertaining because like this dude was just freaking out in the box. It's a true animal. So Iowa wrestler Thomas Gilman. At shortstop, I put Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, baby.
Shortstops, like fielding the ball, you need a lot of good footwork. Same thing. You need range. I feel like he's got really good footwork on the soccer field. I think it will translate well. I don't know about the arm, but hopefully we'll figure that one out. Giannis, he'll help him out first.
Love it.
Now, Chiefs fan, so I also asked that question about how good the Chiefs are.
Oh.
Or who sits atop the throne.
Yes, that's correct.
It's Mahomes. Mahomes is going to play third for me. He's pitched. He pitched in high school, like has baseball background. His dad played for the Red Sox at one point, minor league or majors as well, but relief pitcher. But Mahomes at third, and then left field, I put Bryson DeChambeau. He's a scientist that plays golf, in my opinion, or whatever. Studies the game, and tries to figure out the best way he can hit the ball as far as he can. So I figured he'd do the same in baseball. He would really just get in the lab and figure this out, which is kind of the popular thing in baseball now.
And he's got a good frame too. My man he's pretty built, so.
Now Nadal, he's going to be my center fielder, Rafael Nadal.
Let's go.
Big Nadal fan. He'll hit from the left side of the plate because he's left-handed, and he's really fast probably, and he'll play center field so he can cover a lot of ground just as he does in tennis. So I thought that was a pretty good pick. And he can bunt.
Yeah, and when he winds up to hit, he's going to be going,
yeah. He's going to have some power behind it with that grunt.
Absolutely.
And then in right field, Usain Bolt.
Oh.
And so I imagine my team playing at Fenway Park where the Red Sox play, and right field's rather big there, so I need someone fast that can chase down the ball, and I'd like to see Usain Bolt covering right field. Now, I don't think he'd get a single hit, so we hope he walks. But, I mean, if he walks, he's on first base. He automatically steals second, steals third. And so that's my team. A different approach, but, I mean, I think that's a pretty good squad there. If I can teach Phelps how to pitch, that's a big thing there.
$1 million question. Oh, man. I love it, dude. That's a lot of variety. And we didn't have any players in common, I don't think. So there you go. That's a very solid squad. And if we ran the numbers, I wonder if we could create a bunch of players in MLB The Show and have our teams play against each other or something. But
that would take a lot of work in trying to figure out what their abilities, how you would...
Very true. That would be cool, though. But I appreciate the baseball master coming in with a little different question for us today. But... We're pretty much caught up to current day now. It's my understanding that you're helping coach the Cougar baseball team. Tell me about what level you're at and what kind of roster you're working with, and how do you think the squad is looking for the upcoming season or the season that's just passed?
Yeah, so I'd spent the last 4 years coaching at Kennedy. I don't know where that stands now, but I'd done freshman for 2 years, and then I got to join sophomores for 2 with Coach Winter, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed coaching a lot. After I figured baseball was kind of over for me, I knew I wasn't going to be done in baseball. I was just going to kind of move into coaching, which was something I always wanted to do, even in high school.
Yeah.
And so I've always kind of enjoyed coaching, and I spent a lot of time thinking about different ways I can help the players. Always really spent a lot of time thinking about what you say to a player, because it's kind of important, especially at that age. Like, what do you say to them that can really impact them without, saying the wrong thing or something like that. So I do, yeah. I enjoy coaching a lot. This last fall, I coached a fall team for Perfect Game. So I always try and find different avenues to coach. But the team is definitely really talented. The guys that are kind of moving up to varsity now, it's a good group of kids that have played for a long time together. And so anytime you play together for a long time, they all like to go to the cages and hit together. So I try and give them that avenue to do so, or any way they can get better as long as they're interested in hanging out. But definitely, looking forward to coaching in the future and different stuff like that.
Love it, man. That's great that you think about, like, from the player side, what you want to hear from a coach, and you're able to kind of turn that around and give it back to them. So love that. The one thing I'll throw in here, I mentioned that I was possibly going to throw together a little highlight reel of all the wrestling videos that we have at our apartment. I've kind of been slacking on that. I need to get that together, but I feel like that would be a huge production that we would love to see.
I'll be like the star of the video. Every clip will have me in it. It'll be a few of just Jacob and Jonah going at it.
Yeah, true. They did have their fair share, but
that would be an entertaining video, though.
Absolutely, man. Well, I think we reached the end of the line here. Is there anything else that I left out that you would like to bring up, or anything for shout-outs, or anybody you want to mention before we go our own ways here?
Now, I know Jacob, whenever he comes on, he's going to want to discuss this. So I didn't want to take up too much time on this. LeBron versus Brandon's intramural team.
Oh, no.
I'm with LeBron 100%. Not even a LeBron guy.
Do you realize that it's full court?
Yes. And see, the issue is the cherry picking. Like, if you guys cherry pick, that's fine. But as long as, like, there was some, like, resemblance of, like, an actual basketball.
Okay.
1 versus 5. Like, I've created so many great points. I was going to let Jacob have that conversation, but I'm with LeBron. That's where my pick goes.
All right. Well, we'll let the listeners make their own opinion on that. But the one thing, the main pitch, because I covered this in the Q&A episode as well. The main thing I recommended for our team to do is that if LeBron somehow makes it to the rim and finishes with a layup, we can get the ball, step out of bounds, have someone beat him down the court, and just throw it over the top and get a layup right back on him. So that means he's going to have to be shooting mid-range or threes, and get back on defense would be his best bet. And I think that if we get the ball and have 5-on-1 on offense, we can run a pick and roll with 2 guys screening LeBron, and then we can kick it out and we whip the ball around. We get a great shot. I don't see a chance of LeBron beating us. That's just me.
Yeah, LeBron's a premier athlete. There's not a single person on your intramural team that would keep up with him.
Very true.
Like I always say, like, you're not going to defensive shuffle and stay in front of LeBron James. You're just not.
I couldn't defensive shuffle and stay with some of the JV guys, so there's absolutely no chance.
To go back to your layup argument, I imagine him just dunking it on whoever is under the rim at that time.
Okay, that's possible.
And who knows where the ball goes at that point when he puts one down. That ball is hitting the ground. It's going any which way. And then he just jogs back as LeBron does. Cool, calm individual. And then he stands in the paint. And it doesn't matter how well you guys shoot at the gym. You're not going to shoot better than LeBron. These NBA players, they shoot like 60% from 3 when no one's around. They're just shooting. When your smallest guy's hand in LeBron's face, like, that's nothing to him. He drains that.
All right.
I hope Jacob puts together a pretty good argument for this, because
I'm sure he will.
We're pretty strong on Team LeBron.
Well, we got to have both sides of the argument.
That is true.
That's right. So it's become a tradition on the What's Cooking podcast. If I have a building in common with someone, I like to ask them this question. And so since we both went to Kennedy, obviously, so I'm going to throw this at you. If we were going to play hide and seek across the entire Kennedy High School building, what's your go-to spot? Where are you going to go hide in Kennedy High School?
Yeah, Kennedy is pretty big, so there's a lot of spots, but I feel like it's the really unique spots that you'd be familiar with that you'd be able to hide in. The spot that I have thought of is if you're going outside the football doors by this lower gym.
Okay.
You could be going out to the football field. You're outside now. There's a closet to the right, behind these black doors. And you go in there, and it's a bunch of track equipment, old football equipment, just a bunch of random stuff in there. And then you take another door to the left. It's just right there. And that's some more track stuff, different stuff like that. And that's where we put our baseball pads behind home plate that we put up, to make our backstop nice. We put them up in the spring, and then we take them down in the fall and store them in there. And we store them up above, too, on this, like, layer that you have to like climb up to. So I would put them all in there, and then I would hide behind the mats, and they would never find me. I would hide for days. I could live up there.
Oh man, I did not know that closet existed because obviously I never played baseball, I never played track, so I guess I never had an opportunity to go in there. So you would have won if I was the one searching. So
yeah, I mean it's the two most random black doors, and it's one of those things where like you notice the doors, but you would never think like what's behind there. They're almost just like
blend in with a wall or something. Yeah.
But yeah, you go out there, and that's where I'd be hiding. A super dusty room, like just it's not nice or anything, but that's where I would be.
Very well. I enjoy that spot. That's gotta be a winner. But the one I mentioned last time was in the press box of Kennedy. I'm gonna leave that for last time. There's also another one that I just remembered. We used to have performance PE, and we'd go in the wrestling room, and I had Ben Saracen and Cam Shaver in my PE one time. So what they would do is there's these wrestling mats that are like shoved up against the back of the wrestling room. They would like store them like rolled up mats like vertically. So they'd be standing up and down, and they'd have like this whole line of them against the wall. And there was one day where they brought those wrestling mats just a little bit away from the wall, and they made like a little barricade, and they climbed up over the wrestling mats and like went down in behind, so you wouldn't be able to see them, and you'd have to climb up over them to even know that spot existed. And that's got to be a really good spot too. So I'll throw that out there.
You said that was Ben Saracen and Cam?
And Cam, yep.
That sounds about right. Those two just sneaking back there.
Oh man, you gotta love it. There you have it. I don't have anything left to say. Would you like to give any shout outs? You can talk about where people can find you on social media, anything you want to plug for the listeners.
Yeah, I mean, I don't exactly have good social media accounts. I don't spend too much time trying to, make it big in social media.
That's good.
Maybe I'll try and be an influencer, but who knows? So no need to, you just go look my name up.
Oh.
You might find me, I don't know.
All right. Bold statement. I will put his name in the description of the episode in case you guys forgot. You can just Google search him. Like as Shaq would say, Google me, Chuck.
Yes, Google me, see what happens.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for the hospitality. This has been a great conversation, and we appreciate you coming on. And I hope you have a lot of success in the future, and we can get the boys back together.
Oh yeah,
and have a great time as always. So.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. What a guy, Graham Woods. Always a pleasure when we sit down and talk with him. Good to reconnect. Good to rehash the old memories that we've had in the past, and look forward to creating more in the future. But for now, we are done talking with Graham, and we are going to move on. It's time to see what is cooking in each of the 4 categories, starting with sports. What's cooking in sports? The Iowa football team was defeated by our bye week, 21-6. If you guys might have seen that on social media, the memes going around that Iowa put up only 6 points against our bye week and unfortunately lost. But no, Iowa was not in action this week. We did not play. We have a week to do some soul searching here, reflect on performances of the past, and prepare for one of the top 3 programs in the college football landscape this year. That would be Ohio State, which we are going to play on the road next weekend. Not going to be an easy one for the Hawks. We're going to need to pull a rabbit out of the hat if we want to walk out of there with a win. But, the Hawks, they can have a strange level of proficiency against some of the top teams in the nation. Usually that's at home, but I wouldn't count us out. I know it seems crazy, but sometimes we like to play to the level of our competition, whether that is a South Dakota State that we hang around with longer than we should, or that's Ohio State, which we somehow muster up the courage to defeat. I think that this will be closer than people think, and regardless of if we win,
I think it's going to be a good experience for us to face that kind of talent and kind of see where we stack up against some of the nation's best. Brian Ferentz had to face the media this week. Usually he doesn't. He's an offensive coordinator, but during the bye week, he was on the mic. He was answering questions. Someone asked him some sort of question about what's the downside to maybe taking a look at Padilla, throwing him in for starting quarterback. Like, at this point in the season, wouldn't you want to just kind of see what you have? Because, Petras isn't really getting anything done, so might as well see how Padilla would look. And Brian responded, well, what's the upside? Well, I don't know. You get to get Petras off the field. You get to take a look at another quarterback that might lead us to more success and outperform him. I mean, I don't really know what Brian's getting at there. It's just been a tough year for him and Petras and the offense and the entire team pretty much. But, life goes on. We're going to have to pick up the pieces next offseason and kind of regroup. But that's just how things are going in Hawkeye land right now. Other college football news, Tennessee has a game-winning kick to upset Alabama. I was watching this thing live. That kicker, I believe he missed one earlier in the game, and he was just getting real strange contact on the football and kicking some funky-looking balls. So he trots out there for the game winner. He kicks this thing. Usually when you kick a football, it's end over end. It's rotating like in a backspin type of motion. Like if you were to shoot a basketball, it would be backspinning towards you. That's how usually a football kick looks too, backspin. My man, Tennessee kicker dude, he kicks the ball. This thing is rotating clockwise as it's going towards the goalpost. It looks like a clock spinning around and around in circles. And somehow it just has the power to make it past and get through the goalpost. It was so strange. It was so ugly. You could tell the guy's expression after he hit that. He's like, all right, I'll take it, I guess. But what a way to win it, man. 52-49 at the buzzer, at home. Tennessee crowd rushes the field. They tear down the goalposts. That's got to be an all-time victory. There was one wide receiver that had like 6 catches the entire game, but 5 of them were touchdowns. My goodness. Talk about efficiency. He's never going to forget that night. Tennessee's never going to forget this game. Alabama goes down, and Rocky Top is on top of the world. In the NFL, we have a surprising 5-1 team, which is the New York Giants. Who would have thought? They seem really limited the past couple of years, but they brought in Brian Daboll this year at head coach. He's got the boys rolling. They got a machine going over there in New York. They took down the Ravens, I believe it was. Late comeback, if I remember correctly. Saquon scoring a touchdown. I mean, coaching goes a long way. I guess moving on from the previous coach and bringing in Brian Daboll. Brian's been in the Buffalo system for a long time with Josh Allen. He's been coaching at Alabama in years past. He's got a lot of offensive experience around a lot of talent, so they got a good looking product out on the field right now, and who knows, maybe the Giants are a force to be reckoned with. One of the main attractions of NFL weekend this week was the Bills versus Chiefs game. Of course, we all remember the divisional game last year in the playoffs. I guess earlier this year it would have been. Chiefs drove down the field with 13 seconds left and got into field goal range to kick the game-tying kick, take it into overtime where the Chiefs won in overtime. Absolutely insane game. This one was a little less of a shootout, a little more of a defensive game, I guess you could say. Josh Allen still doing what he does. He was hurdling guys. He was running around. He was QB sneaking. They just got him doing everything for that team, and it was impressive. The Bills end up winning. Clutch interception off of Mahomes by the Bills defense at the end will seal it. I have a feeling that those two will most likely meet again later in the playoffs this year, if I had to guess. That'll have huge implications, and whenever those two teams lace it up, you gotta ditch all your plans and tune in, because some great talent at display, and as an NFL fan, that's probably one of the best matchups you can get. The Chargers are in action Monday night against the Broncos. Not exactly a great performance by any means, but we found a way to get it done, the Chargers. We actually got help from a special teams blunder from the other team, which is super rare for us because usually we're the ones screwing up. But the Broncos punt return team, they pulled a 2019 Iowa State. We pushed one of their guys into the returner. They bumped into each other. They fumbled, and we jumped on it. And then Dustin Hopkins and his injured leg hobbled out there to kick in the game winner. So that's very rare for the Chargers to win off of special teams and for us to win in overtime at the very end. Usually we like to build an early lead and then gradually give it away. This time was the opposite, so that's refreshing to see that we can win an ugly game at the end like this. Gives me a little hope, even though there's so many injuries going on. J.C. Jackson's getting burnt on every snap. He got benched for Michael Davis. And every player that leaves the Patriots, it seems like they just suddenly drop off. They're no longer what they used to be. And Bill Belichick can move off of these players at the right time, and it's so frustrating. Because J.C. Jackson is supposed to be like a top 3 corner in the NFL, and he's just getting absolutely toasted this year. So, I don't know, man. Some good, some bad, but we'll take the win. Quickly before we move on, NBA opening night. At the time of this recording, Celtics 76ers are just about to tip off. And then later tonight we have Warriors-Lakers. This is time you're listening to this on the day of release will be Wednesday. These games are already over, but two good matchups. Obviously, Curry versus LeBron is going to be a huge draw. Celtics 76ers, classic East Coast matchup there. I'm in a couple of fantasy basketball leagues, so I'm going to be keeping close watch on these games and excited to get a look at the new season and see how my Mavs are doing. Luka and the boys are going to be in action later this week, so let's do it, boys. Exciting times. What's cooking in finance? This week is a big earnings week in the stock market, guys. If you're not sure about what earnings are a company's profits in a given quarter or fiscal year. They are a key figure used to determine a stock's value. A company's earnings are used in many common ratios and metrics, and they have a big impact on stock price. So I'll give you the rundown of important companies that are having earnings this week. There are more companies than just this, but I kind of handpicked some of the most notable ones. Monday, earnings. We have Bank of America and Charles Schwab. Tuesday, Netflix, Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson, Lockheed Martin. On Wednesday, we have Tesla, IBM, Procter & Gamble. Thursday, American Airlines, AT&T, Philip Morris, Snap, Union Pacific. And on Friday, American Express and Verizon. Wow. A lot of heavy hitters in that list. A lot of earnings are going to be released, and this will make for some volatility, I would assume. Some people are going to be happy with their company's earnings. Some people are going to be upset, and there's going to be buyers, there's going to be sellers. So if you guys are interested in the day-to-day movement of stock prices, then keep a close eye on some of these earnings because they're going to play a big role in the short-term price movements for sure. This week in the stock market, we have a positive start to the week. That's pretty rare these days. Monday, S&P was up 2.65%. Tuesday, S&P was up 1.14%. Slowly but surely, guys. Is this the bottom? Are we finally seeing the bright side again? Or is this just fake momentum and we're headed back down further? Who knows at this point? The stock market, hard to see the future. Some people think that we're going to have a recession like 7 months from now, so impossible to say. But if you dollar cost average into some blue chip stocks, you will be rewarded over the long term if current trends continue. So that's what I'll be doing, and I recommend, not financial advice, I recommend that you do the same. Not financial advice. What's cooking in technology? Investigators are seeing an emerging trend in which tech support scammers are convincing victims that their financial accounts have been compromised and their funds need to be moved so the fraudsters can gain control over the victim's computers and finances. In some of these tech support scams, the fraudsters, they like to pose as customer or tech support reps from some of these reputable, well-known tech companies. They might call, they might email or text their targets and offer to resolve some of these issues as a compromised email or a bank account, computer virus, or software license renewal, some of those. So once they convince the victims that their financial accounts have been compromised and their funds need to be moved, they can then gain control over the victims' computers and ultimately their finances. Victims are often directed to wire or transfer their funds out of brokerage or bank accounts to crypto exchanges or to transfer the contents of their crypto wallet to another wallet to safeguard the contents. These fraudsters are also likely to create fictitious support sites so that they can entice crypto owners to contact them directly, and they can convince them then to divulge their login information or surrender control of their crypto accounts. It's kind of disappointing. Well, it's especially, first of all, disappointing that stuff like this happens in the first place. No one should be doing this. But on a secondary note, it's kind of disappointing that crypto gets tied up in this, because for the average everyday person who doesn't know much about crypto, and if this is the first time that they're hearing of crypto and it's associated with these scams, they're just going to think, oh, crypto equals bad, equals scam, and I'm never going to put any money in crypto because crypto bad. Hopefully you are willing to do more research into it and dig a little bit deeper than just making that quick association, but that will happen for a lot of people, and it's kind of unfortunate, but it is common for these fraudsters and these hackers to use crypto as a means to scam people. It doesn't mean that crypto itself is bad. It just means that crypto has potential for some of these fraudulent activities. If you guys want to learn more or kind of dig deeper into the processes that these scammers will do on these tech support calls, I highly recommend you check out a Twitch streamer called Kitboga, Kitboga. He's a Twitch streamer that dedicates his entire account to changing his voice to sound like an elderly person, usually like an old grandma or old grandpa, super old person that is unassuming and not really aware of what's going on. And he will then kind of troll and mess around with these scammers, waste their time, learn about their pitches and their tactics. And by doing that, he's gaining awareness on how people are getting scammed, and he's also wasting the scammers' time that they could have been spending scamming real people. Instead, they're scamming this Twitch streamer who's getting paid from his audience to do this. So it's such a cool setup that he does. He's so smart. He's a very intelligent guy. He's very funny. Check him out, Kitboga on Twitch. Hopefully you guys don't fall for these scams. Hopefully you'll be able to kind of tell the difference, but if you watch Kitboga streams, you're going to be able to tell some of the approaches that these guys take and kind of become more aware of this whole situation going on. What's cooking in video games? NBA star and Splash brother Klay Thompson calls NBA 2K's marketing guy a clown. So ESPN brought on Ronnie 2K for an interview. There's this guy named Ron that's like one of the main NBA 2K personalities and marketing people or whatever. They call him Ronnie 2K. And ESPN brought him on to talk about some certain parts of the game. And I think one of them had to do with 2K23 giving Klay Thompson a 88 3-point rating, which is criminally underrated in my opinion and in most people's opinion. So Klay Thompson took to Instagram to share his thoughts about Ronnie 2K going on ESPN. Klay was saying, "Y'all really interviewed this clown? I thought NBA on ESPN meant coverage of some of the best athletes in the world, not interviewing a promoter. Do better, ESPN." I'm not a fan of some of the modern day sports games, video games. If you guys have listened to my other episodes, you've probably heard me go on and on about Madden and how Madden has fallen off a cliff. The game is terrible. The whole setup and environment and approach that they take to creating their games is simply a disaster compared to the old days and what Madden used to be. So I take a similar stance here, and I kind of side with Klay Thompson on this one. I don't play 2K nearly as much as I used to play Madden, but I would imagine some of the similar tactics and game design things are going on. So who knows if 2K is really onto something with this, or if they're actually just messing around and trying to get clicks and views and all that stuff like Madden does. But if you guys are 2K players out there, hit me up and let me know. Are you excited for 2K23? Are you not going to get it? Just hit me up, see what you think, and maybe I'll have a better understanding of the overall mood going into this NBA season. Another little clip here for video games. There was a person named Helena Taylor, who was the star of the first 2 Bayonetta video games. She recently said that she would not appear in the next iteration, which is Bayonetta 3, set to be released for the Nintendo Switch on October 28th. She posted a series of videos Saturday on Twitter accusing Nintendo and the game's developer, Platinum Games, of offering her a total of $4,000 to reprise her role. She said she rejected the lowball offer and asked fans to refrain from buying the game. If you're someone who cares about people, who cares about the world around you, who cares about who gets hurt with these financial decisions, then I urge you to boycott this game, Taylor said in one of the videos. These videos went viral. They racked up over 9.5 million views. Some of the voice actors are beloved by fans in the video game industry, but they fail to get anywhere close to what the Hollywood actors would make for some of their roles. Game actors have long complained of being underpaid and underappreciated. Some have said that they receive little information about their roles until they show up in the recording booth. The industry operates in very secretive ways, so that actors sometimes don't even know what game they're recording lines for until it's released. $4,000 to do a voice acting role. I don't really know the market for some of these positions, but it sounds like that's being underpaid. And if this is any sort of notable video game, I would imagine that that's pretty low for an entire character in a video game. The only thing I can really say on this is you should pay the important people to your business what they deserve, because if you fail to take care of some of the best performers in your market or in your video game or in your product, they oftentimes will have other opportunities waiting for them with higher salaries, and they will go explore those options. And you got to retain some of the best talent and do what it takes to keep the best voice actors in your video game. If that was me controlling it, that's what I would try to do. Hopefully, some of these voice actors will start getting paid their fair share, and going forward, we will take this as a lesson and get people what they deserve. That'll do it for me, everybody. What's Cooking, episode 13. Graham Woods coming on the show. Love talking to my man. Hoping to get more guests on soon. I know that there's a few people in the reserves that are waiting to just find a date to come on. Not sure if that'll be next week or I'll be solo, but if you come back next Wednesday, I'll have an episode ready to go for you either way. What's_cooking on Twitter, what's_cooking on Instagram, Facebook page, YouTube channel, all that good stuff. Check me out. Everybody have a good week, and we will see you next Wednesday.
See ya.